The amazing Sorelle bootstrapped a business which enabled her to travel the world on her own terms while getting paid to do it. She's a best-selling author and an all-around business powerhouse. She's badass. Being a woman who's traveled the globe solo, Sorelle knows a thing or two about being a stranger in a strange land. We speak about how to be unfuckwithable while traveling. We speak about her crazy 30-day Krav Maga challenge, which has since become one of the most viewed Krav Maga videos on YouTube. And we do a deep dive about confronting your demons, mental health, and what it takes to start your own business, who it's suitable for and who it's not. It's always a lot of fun talking to Sorelle. I hope you enjoy this one. Evil thrives when good men and women do nothing, when they fail to make a stand. This podcast is about giving you the tools and the information to make that stand. I'm Ron Engelman, Master Sergeant, Krav Maga Black Belt, IDF combat veteran, proud Jew, and grandson to Holocaust survivors. This is the Ron Engelman Podcast.
It's a journey that goes back 5.5 years, I think. I was just obviously intrigued by this country and I heard a little bit about it. And then I came here. And during the 5.5 years, I was here in and out until eventually the world shut down and I got stuck here. But in a good way. When I was in Sydney, the aim was to, when I was in Sydney training with you, that was such a fun time, by the way. But the aim was actually to stay there. And all of a sudden I was living in my apartment and I was still traveling the world so much because my job required me to travel so much. And then I just had this, like, I have to move out. So I moved out within 3 days and then I started traveling again. We almost moved to LA, but then we came to Iceland to just come and buy an investment house that I wanted. And it turned out to be a much bigger house, like a dream opportunity presented itself. The most glorious house I have ever seen in my life became available for sale for the most ridiculous price. So we took it and the aim was to have this as a base and travel the world. And then 2 months later, the world shut down. So I've been here basically ever since and just adjusting to a much more stable life in a country that I don't know if I ever expected that I'd live full time, but such is life.
So yeah, you're Aussie originally, for whoever can't pick up the accent. And yeah, you just kind of grow up in Australia. You find yourself in Iceland, which is, I dare say, different.
It's very different. It's cold, like really cold all the time. And winter, it's 24-hour darkness basically, and then summer, it's 24-hour sun. So it's there's so many weird things about this place, but then the air quality here is unreal. The water quality is unreal. And I know that sounds like it's not that big of an ask. So what, you don't have fresh air, fresh water, but in my opinion, this should be a human right. And we're just messing up the world so much now. It feels like that some people can't have access to that. And that just is insane to me. So I love being here and seeing how it operates. And I don't think it's tainted yet. So you can observe Iceland and see, and hopefully somehow we can prevent it from going to shit, I presume. But I don't know if that's possible, but with the whole world being a bit consumeristic right now and selfish in terms of their activities towards the planet. So I don't know, but I love the community of people here as well. They're really interesting. I definitely miss the warmth though, I have to say. And Krav Maga.
There's no big Krav Maga schools in Iceland yet.
I heard there is actually. I just found out maybe a month ago that there is a Krav school, but I don't know. They have a huge MMA scene here, which I also didn't know. I feel so dumb. They have one of the most famous gyms in the world, Mjolnir. It's amazing. They have BJJ, which I'm going to sign up for soon, and then boxing. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it.
Excellent. I think you love jiu-jitsu. It's a very like the learning it's interesting. It's kind of like chess, where every move there's a counter move on top of it. Really, it exercises your brain as well. It's as a sport, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, my sister started it, and I did a session last year when I was in El Salvador, before the world shut off. And And I did a session with, there was a purple belt and a blue belt. And for some reason they decided to, what is it called when you're on the mat?
Roll to roll.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, we decided to roll. And it's awkward because I obviously had not done any lessons, but they were just, and then I watched them do it. They were so structured with what they were doing and the moves. It was actually a beautiful dance, and the respect you could see between the players as well is something that I really admire about the BJJ community. I think they're pretty special. So I'm excited to get into it.
Mm. It's a
And I
very,
have to say
yeah.
this, it just reminds me because the ones that have higher, like yourself, for example, black belt with multiple stripes. I remember always looking at people that were graded so high with so much skill, and the level of just calm confidence that people have when they know how to defend themselves is one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever seen. And I would like to have that, because you're not cocky in any way. You're not trying to pretend like you know everything. You just silently like, I have some skills. And then, and then you're actually like a weapon. It's crazy.
It's kind of the paradox of self-defense, of martial arts training, that when you can look after yourself, very rarely do you need to actually use these skills. But it's fun. I was thinking about it today. A lot of people, look at boxing, or look at martial arts like as an outlet of anger. Like I go to my training and I get it all out, and I find it very, very far from it. Like anger is a very poor motivator. Like if you get in front of the punching bag and you're like, let me get all my anger out. Okay, good. Like, maybe you're more angry, less angry. Like, maybe after about 1 minute, 2 minutes, that's it. You're gassed, you're done. That's not much of a training session. And it's not much enjoyable. You don't want to be coming to like, if this is a long-term pursuit, you don't want to be coming like, just aggro like that's not a good kind of mental space to go to training for. And if anything, I mean, what you said about the higher levels of skill, it comes with a certain humility. I mean, the more you challenge yourself, the more you fail. If you challenge yourself, if you truly challenge yourself, you become a master at failing and learning from your failure and getting better. So in order to get to really high level of anything, especially in the combat sports and arts, where where people are defeating you, like you're losing to other people multiple times. Well, there are two ways to go about it. You either get frustrated and you say, this is bullshit, or you just, you learn to quiet your ego and go, okay, excellent. What can I learn from it? I mean, the best thing is when somebody beats you, when someone, in a sparring match, or when you're rolling, if somebody defeats you, and you can go, okay, that was awesome. Can you show me how you did that? That's, that there's so much more to be gained of that in terms of just going in with your ego. I found that people with very large egos, there are exceptions to the rules, but generally they don't last, or they certainly don't really, go to the higher skill levels.
That's probably why you don't see any bros at these gyms. Like, bro, I'm the best, because they don't want to be embarrassed and get beaten by someone else.
Look, there are gyms like that out there. It's it's not that everybody training in martial arts is a wonderful, evolved human being. Many are, most are. It's not everybody, but it's also about the culture. I was speaking to Tim Larkin on one of the earlier episodes we did, who's also a self protection experts, and we're talking about that for kids. One of the the best benefits for kids that are bullied is not the actual techniques that they learn of how to fight, but actually being part of a community, being part of a wolf pack that accepts them, and that gives them good values of looking out for the weak, looking out for one another, and they get confidence, and then they don't get bullied, because you learn certain skills. First of all, it takes a certain amount of time to develop those skills, And second, there's always somebody bigger. There's always somebody stronger, or there's always a group of kids, and that's usually the case that pick on one. So great, you
Mhm.
can be, you can be Bruce Lee level skills when you're 12 years old. That's an unreasonable ask, but let's say you could accomplish that. What are you going to do against five kids who are, especially at those ages, the size differences are huge. You can have a 12-year-old
Mm.
kid, which is the size of a full-grown adult, and you can have a 12-year-old kid who's tiny. And so the answer to that is not getting better at fighting. It's about confidence, self-esteem, and giving them a place where they can feel strong.
Mhm. I have a question, and I've always pondered this question in my mind, and I wonder if you have some insight into it, because I wonder, when someone goes to attack a certain person, it doesn't happen very often. Like, I've traveled the world and I've never had any encounters, which is really awesome. Well, I had one actually, but I'll tell you about it later. But I feel like there's a profile of someone that they go for, and I wonder, in my mind, I have, because I've been not exposed to any danger moments, but in my head, I wonder if I just don't fit the profile of that, because I always assert this confidence when I'm walking that no one will fuck with me, essentially. That's what it feels like. And I don't know if it's in my head, or if psychologically, if you are in a certain state of mind of like this protection bubble, like no one's coming my way, I wonder if it does something different than, if you're always like, there's danger everywhere. Like, in my head, it just doesn't cross my mind that there's danger. I'm like, it's just not happening. It doesn't, not even in my sphere of awareness that it happens, that it would ever happen when I'm traveling. It's not there ever. So I wonder if you're constantly either thinking about it, or if there's some energy that you're putting out, if you're more likely to be targeted, but I don't know.
Look, generally, the person that's targeted, there are two types of, there are different ways to cut the pie, let's say, but generally it's accepted two types of violence. One is instrumental, where I'm using violence as a threat, or I'm actually using violence because I want something from you. That could be, I want to rob you. That could be sexual assault. That can be, I want you to cooperate. I'm using, I can pull out a gun, put it in your face and say, get in the car. So I'm using the threat of violence to get you to cooperate. So here the violence is instrumental. It's a means to an end, where my goal is not to use violence. I'm using violence to get something done. The other one is asocial violence, where I want to bash you so that I can get some social benefit from that. Maybe to show, if it's in a gang, to show my peer group that I'm a big tough guy, or what I'm willing to do to be part of the group. Um, or it could be two blokes fighting in a bar, and I want, as the violent guy in the bar, I want to show everybody in the bar and all my friends, I want to show that I'm the tough guy. I'm not to be messed with. And then it's not so clear cut. It could be two guys fighting in a over car space where nobody else is watching, and still I'm using violence to show, maybe to show myself that I'm not a pushover. um, so these are the different types. Generally, for women, and for the people that I look to train, because we kind of put the asocial violence on the side. It's like, if somebody wants to show everybody that he's the big kahuna because he can intimidate me, I'm willing to let them have it when I can. I can say, look, I'm sorry, I'm getting out of here, and I just walk when everybody laughs at me. That's fine with me. I can live with that. Training, even, I can get slapped, I can get punched. Like, I get punched on a day-to-day basis in training. So, it doesn't really, my heart doesn't really skip a beat, that, in comparison, of course. Like, let's say the threat would have to be pretty severe to get me to react in a way instead of to act, if that makes sense, to push me to do
Yeah, totally.
something that I'm not in control of. So if we put that on the side, I think what you're talking about is the instrumental violence. It's when you're traveling, the concerns are being robbed, sexual assault. Really, those are the things. And terrorism, which is a bit of an interesting one. It's a whole, it's not a whole category, but it's a whole discussion of where that fits in. Let's leave that aside for now. So for predatorial violence, it's not like an MMA match. It's not like they're not looking for a challenge. They're looking for someone that poses as little risk to them as possible. Now, the question would be asked, so what's risk? And it'll change from situation to situation. Risk can be you shouting and making a mess, like making a lot of noise and a lot of attention of onlookers, so people can identify them. That can be a danger. You putting up a fight, scratching, biting, elbowing, or maybe even throwing aggressive trained a trained sequence that you've learned, or you having skills that can be a threat. So generally they'll be looking for someone that doesn't look like they pose a threat. If we could generalize, it would be someone who's not paying attention to their surroundings, has no idea where they are. Someone like tourists are usually pretty easy mark. They don't know the rules, they don't know exactly what's happening around them. It's very easy to kind of, first of all, to see them, and second of all, to put them in situations, to intimidate them, to threaten them, or to take advantage of them. And yeah, it's how you carry yourself. It's also your physical size. And again, this isn't true for all situations, but I'm trying to look at the common. There's always exceptions, but we're looking at what these things have in common. So saying that you found that you haven't been targeted for these things, I think it's all combined. It's your situational awareness of how you carry yourself, how you look at your surroundings, how you engage. Like, somebody doesn't just jump out of nowhere. These people, I want to say they're cowards, but really, and they are, these sexual predators or robbers. But it's not just about them being cowards. They're evolved to do this, whether professionally, whether they're designed or not, or it's just their instinct. They know that if they jump somebody in front of a crowd, in a crowd area where other people, and this person seems assertive, they know to kind of test the grounds. It's like how we kind of set it up normally, like in our minds or in the movies, where somebody jumps out of the bushes at a girl walking out in the park. That happens, but it's much more common for somebody to kind of approach you, maybe ask you for the time, for change, so that they can see how you respond to that. Then maybe they're going to put their hand on you, not in a sexual way or anything. Maybe put a hand on the shoulder, or just kind of hold your sleeve, or just to kind of, is to intimidate you, so that you submit, so that you start showing submissive behaviors, and two is to kind of test you out, because they haven't really exposed themselves or their intentions completely yet, or at least not. If you know what to look for, it's as bright as day, but they haven't really done anything illegal or anything that you can expose. So they're kind of testing you, and then once they're comfortable, then they attack. So if you kind of know what to look for, even instinctually, if you know what to look for, you can cut that right before, way before it happens. Because once they're already in the personal space, once they've already put their hand on you, once they've already started their interaction, you're already feeling very, very weak, which is also something that they're trying to do. They're trying to take your confidence, your feeling of ability to fight back away from you. And then by the time they make their move, often it's very, very hard, even if you know the moves, even if you learned exactly in Krav Maga class exactly what you should do when somebody grabs you by the throat, or grabs your hand, or tries to pin you down to the ground. By that time, your attacker is feeling very emboldened, and you're feeling very weak, and so it could
stole your energy.
Yeah,
they steal your energy gradually. That's pretty incredible. That's like a game. Wow. Okay, I'll tell you how I do it when I'm traveling. So when I'm traveling, because I this is so interesting what you just said, by the way, because it is these tiny little hints. And I have been, now that you say that, there's been moments in my travels where I've had people come up and be like, hey, Chica, like, hey, how you doing? And just, just really encroaching on my space and like touching me and stuff. And I was just like, piss off. Like, what are you doing? and I would just straight away just put up like don't touch me. What the hell's going on? So I had this really strong guard, and it's a good thing for some situations, but having a guard like this
No, that's it.
sometimes is also not the best.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's setting the
Yeah.
boundaries and going like, no, like this is not.
Yeah.
I'm not playing this game. This isn't acceptable. And if you go any farther, there's going to be a stronger response from me. And then they go
Yeah.
look
I
for
would scream. I would easily scream. I would be out there completely. I actually, have I had to do that? Okay. So what I have done during my travels is I never ever pretend that I am a tourist. I pretend like I live there. So even if I have no idea where I am, I'll never have a map out in my entire life. I will not look at my phone. I'll just walk really confidently to everywhere I'm going. If I'm lost, I go into like a little convenience store, and then I pull out the map or wherever I'm trying to get the directions, memorize it, put it back, and then keep walking. But I never have headphones in. I never just like I'll look around and be like amazed, but I won't pretend that it won't be, if I'm by myself, I won't be like, wow, this is awesome, as if I'm seeing it for the first time. It's more like I'll have to minimize those reactions in myself, just be like, look up, in my head, be freaking out at how beautiful something might be, but on the exterior, just acting really casual. So I've always done that when I'm solo traveling. I never go out at nighttime by myself, obviously, because that's just asking for trouble. The only time I ever got pulled up and was actually, for the first time, a little worried, it was weird, was when I was walking in Amsterdam in the main street. So that was a strange place for someone to start approaching me. They were following me, and they were like yelling, not even yelling. I don't think they weren't making that many noises, but they were clearly following me, and they were coming on, coming on hot. And the energy that came over me I was instantly so freaked out, because just their confidence of they were gonna get me, full stop. So I turned around really quickly and I went to gather all my friends, and I was like, guys, luckily I had friends there because they were stopping me from getting back into the hostel. And I just said to all the dudes, I was like, someone's following me. I need to go to the hostel. Can you guys come with me? And 4 of them came, and then the guy just pissed off, which was really good. But yeah, if I think back to it, it was his absolute confidence that was the scariest thing, I think, which was, so what could work is the overriding of that confidence, being like, you think you have me? Fuck no, you don't. I'm out. Like, no, not happening. Yeah, it's an energetic game in a way. Interesting.
Just a couple of minutes ago, you told me that you've traveled a lot, and you've never been in a situation. And you just, I think you just gave me a whole bunch of them. And I think what doing what I do for quite a while, I've learned that things that men take for granted is sometimes can be almost a daily occurrence for women, like the things that you spoke about in terms of well, I don't go out at night alone, like, oh, so first of all, you have your, the first mechanisms that you have is, first of all, identifying dangerous situations, the dangerous locations, and avoiding those places. That's the first most of kind of a I don't want to say threat assessment, but that is what it is. Just a quick quick analysis of okay, I'm not going to go to these places. That's the first thing. And then being aware of your surroundings, understanding when somebody's coming to you, as you say, with energies that just don't seem right, of stopping it right there and making the person aware that you know what's happening, and that you have no intention of submitting. You intend to fight back, not necessarily physically, by the way, but you intend to to stand your ground. And I dare say that most people aren't like you. I think that a lot of people, when confronted by a threat, their response is to submit, is to say, look, I don't want any trouble, or even physically, just to make themselves small by slouching, putting their head in. We kind of instinctively try to make ourselves invisible. So I think you actually have a lot of I'd say skills. These are natural survival skills. I'm very big on kind of evolutionary behavior, and
Mhm.
with understanding that our natural instincts and our reflexes are there for a reason. They came from our ancestors, and they had them because it was the ancestors that had those allowed they had more chances to survive. So these traits got passed on. So
Mm,
it
mhm.
seems.
That, yeah, that, and I also just, thinking about it, my childhood wasn't exactly easy. Of it, like the house wasn't a safe space, and I was too young to receive the strikes, but I was definitely exposed to hearing it
Mhm.
and seeing my loved ones being hurt by this person. And I think it made me so pissed off. And I saw the what was happening, and I think it made me so pissed off at what I was witnessing that I said, never in my entire life will ever anyone ever treat me like that, all my loved ones. And I think it made me really strong. So I'm really grateful for this person that they did it, they acted this way, because they made me very strong, to the point where I might not look like I'm not even the strongest by any means, but I will fight to hell before someone dares touch me in any way. So I think, partially it was the upbringing. So I see that my upbringing was actually now, after much uh, assessment, I can see that my background was definitely very helpful for me to fight, to light that fire behind me. So I'm very grateful for it.
It's I guess being exposed to it means that you kind of have pathways and you have strategies, and when it's threatened or when you face it, you've been there before,
Mm-hmm.
in a certain certain aspect, and then you can do something about that. And I think the challenge, my challenge, especially in Krav Maga, a lot of the people that we train are, how we say, look, on the people that we train are not, as a whole, they're not, we don't, it's not criminals, it's not people who, everybody comes
Mm-hmm.
with their own story, but it's generally, adults who come to learn Krav Maga, or kids that get sent to Krav Maga. It's a certain demographic, let's say, certain socio-economic structure. It's usually, people who have jobs, people who work in the city, or whatnot. It's a certain profile of people. It's also a certain profile of people that aren't exposed to violence on a regular basis. And then,
Mm-hmm.
if you would, like, in the other corner, as if, we had this cage match, right? In one corner you have this accountant who works, 9 to 5 in a cubicle, and comes home to his family and his kids. That's who I'm training. And the other corner, it's this hardened professional criminal, who's going to jump him when he's on holiday in Mexico. And this guy, mugs people for a living, and he's part of a
Mm-hmm.
gang, and he's very skilled and very, conditioned to violence. So
Mm-hmm.
my challenge as a Krav Maga instructor is, and that's nice. The nice way of it. What about, when we're talking about size differences? What if it's a guy, that's, that's relatively aggressive and habituated to violence, wants to assault a female who's got a smaller stature. So it's
Mm-hmm.
certainly, a challenge. And one of the things that we do in martial arts, whether you're doing Krav Maga, whether you're doing Jiu-Jitsu, whether you're doing boxing, or whatever it is that you choose to do, you're also getting to some level habituated. I don't know if habituated is the right word, but you're confronting, um, violence in a very controlled
Mm-hmm.
environment. And that way, if you approach it on the street, like if you're training what to do, if you learn the techniques in Krav Maga, of, let's say, one of the first things you learned when you trained with us, and most Krav Maga students, they learn what to do if somebody puts two hands on their throat and tries to kill them by squeezing their neck so they can't breathe. We learn, how to remove their hands, and how to, kick them in the balls, punch them in the face, and get away. Now, if you've been
Mm-hmm.
training on that, and you've done that a couple of times, if God forbid somebody, you're out on the street and somebody tries on the street, or maybe even, maybe even somebody tries to grab you by the throat, you have a mental pathway to deal with that. Even if you forget about if you can't remember the technique, it's you've done this before. Your body kind of has your body, your brain has a representation of this. But if you've never trained anything like this before, and nobody's ever put their hands on your throat, and now it happens the first time for real, even if you're skilled, let's say in boxing, but somebody grabbed you by the throat, you don't have the mental pathway for this. You're more likely to freeze and go, I don't know what, like the brain just doesn't have the format for that specific thing. So it's something that
it's never
helps.
seen it before.
Yeah, so it's something that definitely helps, and that kind of connects to what you were telling me about your childhood, that you certainly did experience violence. You saw it, and when you're confronted with it, you have the pathway. You know how to recognize it from a mile away, and you also know how to respond to it. And
that's true.
And that's huge. And to be frank, if I had to choose between knowing the right techniques and being able to identify, being able to stop the violence cycle before it goes, obviously you'd want to have both, because you can shout, you can scream, but if the other, let's say if the other person is really, really determined, you want to also be able to stop them physically rather than just mentally. But those are very important skills to be had, and the skills that are quite hard to teach. You can't really teach. It's just through experience. And what Krav Maga does well, I think, is it puts you in those. Our aim is to put you in those scenarios. It's not just about the techniques. I want you to put in a situation where somebody has a knife to your throat, so that you can deal with that. I want to put you in a situation where somebody's trying to grab you to take you down to the ground. Where in boxing you learn the mechanics. I learn how to punch people, but the situation can be very, very different, and we can never mimic all the situations in Krav Maga, and we can't, and whatever we train, it's always going to be a little bit different. But at least we're doing things that are similar, and then that carry over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is so interesting. It's nice to have a chat, but the acts, doing everything in person is one thing, but then having an understanding of how it works energetically and mentally is super interesting. And I just think of like a person in my family. I'm still protecting the person that did this because they're so hurt, and I wish that they would deal with their bullshit. I have nothing against this person anymore, but they're just so freaking hurt, and that's why they were hurting. Because I don't think people that are hurt, they hurt. That's how it works. I honestly think so. But yeah, the person that was on the receiving end, like one of the worst in my family on the receiving end, this person said that at one point they released any fear, and they just said, you don't have any control over me anymore, like it's done. And this person was not scared at all anymore, didn't put up with any bullshit. It was just like, nah, not happening. And it's just stopped. Once the other person realized that they don't have any power over the other person, then it all just fizzled away. It was all done as soon as the person just was like, you don't have any power over me, it's done. And it was like a trivial thing. Like even if they put a hand on them again, it was just like, oh, good one. It was more of that attitude instead of no, please don't. Which I don't know. That worked for this person. I don't know if it works across the board, but that's energetically, I feel that's what it is.
I'm a very firm believer that you can't really change anybody. You can only change yourself and how you respond to the situation. You and I, we spoke quite frequently about Viktor Frankl, and it's always my go-to. If you're not familiar with it, it's probably the number one book that I recommend to people: Man's Search for Meaning. And Viktor Frankl talks about he was a psychiatrist who was Jewish. He was head of an Austrian. He was actually quite well renowned. He was, I think, he was a student for some time of Freud, and he was head of a psychiatric hospital in in Austria. I think it was Vienna, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Holocaust started, and he was offered to go to the United States because he was a very world-renowned professor, and he opted to stay with his parents and his family instead of leaving them. And he ended up in the concentration camps. He was in Auschwitz, and it's very interesting to hear. You know, me with my background, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and it's something that I grew up into the story into these, you know, into the stories and understanding of what happened to my family and you know, to my people. But it's very interesting to hear it from the position of a psychologist, of a psychiatrist, of how he kind of understood the mental processes of survival, of how you survive such an extreme thing in your mind. And so Viktor Frankl talks a lot about that. The one thing that can't be taken away from a human being is how they choose to respond to situations. You might not be able to have any power, but in your mind and how you interpret and how you see things, nobody can ever take that from you. And that's a very big strength. And that's what you were describing. Connected to that, also, it's true that a lot of, let's say, almost everybody who abuses was abused themselves. Mm-hmm. But also most people that have been abused don't abuse. It would be wrong to say that so really you have it's connected to what we were talking about. It's, you know, just because of the input output, I'm thinking in psychological terms, but you know, you know, just because the input is abused, you'd think that, okay, so everybody that gets abused also abuses, but that clearly can't be the case. Otherwise, you know, after a few generations, everybody would be abusing. That's just the math of it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can say, look, I had this done to me and now I'm going to do it to other people too. I was bullied, so now I'm going to bully other people. Or you can say, I was bullied, so I'm going to make damn sure that that I'm not going to get bullied again, and that nobody else that I care about is going to get bullied either. And that sounds mm-hmm. to me very much what, you know, that your conscious decision was.
Yeah, because I saw it and I just don't think it's necessary. I mean, there's so many different ways. There's so many better ways to exist, you know, and I think the person that did it would, well, I know that they haven't done it again. Yeah. So I think they realize the guilt that they have to now carry is, I mean, I just feel bad for the guilt. Honestly, I don't feel bad for it, but it must be torture in that person's mind, you know.
It's not about them.
And I'm free of. No, yeah, no.
It's about you. I'm you.
But in my head, because obviously this person's a part of my family, for their sake, you know, there's so many ways to address everything that went on, and there's, you know, there were so many lessons for me for it. So I'm not annoyed at it, but I just wish that they would just release the guard so we could have a discussion about it. Like, what went wrong? Why did this happen? Don't run away from me anymore. Like, I don't want you to run away. I want you to tell me so we can have an understanding and a chat, because it's not going to, there has been an aspect of me that's been afraid, if I have kids, will I do the same? And I've had to catch myself so many times. Would I be that person? Because I have a temper as well. Obviously, I've seen it. I grew up around it, so I can snap, but I don't think it's to a point where I can't imagine that I would hurt someone, but I am afraid of that. Do I have it in myself that I'm not aware of it? You know, and I wonder if people that have been in abusive households, they're afraid of themselves. I don't know if that's the thing, but I presume that maybe, you know, you've been exposed to it. So are you going to do that as well to somebody else? It's a scary thought, and you won't really know until you have kids, and then you have to stop the pattern.
I don't think so. I gotta disagree with you here. I think it's really, if you deal with it and you're as you clearly have, and you're conscious of it and you're aware of what happened to you, and you've kind of digested it. It's a never-ending thing, but then you can take ownership of it, and then you have the control. Where if it's something that's kind of repressed and it's something that you don't deal with and you haven't spent time thinking about and you haven't done the work on yourself, then maybe that's something that you don't know. But if you have, as you clearly have, I don't think it's something that you don't know. If is this all of a sudden gonna come out of me? This is my,
Yeah.
that's my educated opinion on itself. But I also say that, in family, with family members, it's challenging, but I don't think that it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary your responsibility, your place, or even within your ability to fix another person. Like I said, all you can do
No,
is about
definitely.
yourself, and especially with family members, sometimes it's just not in your ability. You just can't do it. Sometimes you got to let go, and you can say, "Look, maybe you need help, but I'm not the
Mm,
person." I'm not the person who can help you. I wish I could. Maybe I wish I could. Maybe I don't. It doesn't really matter. But because of the relationship, or because of the position, or because of the history, or whatever it is, I'm sorry, I can't be your psychologist. I can't help you, get over this. It's on you.
definitely.
All I can control is how I react, and maybe how I react to you. That's helped me myself as well. The experiences often I have, you can't kind of go back, and you got, on the one hand, um, I guess I use the word forgive very carefully. I'm not talking about like forgetting, but you got to kind of let go of the hold that it has over you. You got to,
Hmm.
as you said, I think maybe you're a better human being than I am, of going, look, I'm thankful for you for making me stronger. I don't know if, but it definitely changes. It's a healthy way of looking at it, because it changes the power structure. It's now I've got the power. I've taken whatever happened and I've used it to make it something very positive and strong, and something that's enabled you to travel the world and
Hmm.
to be safe and stuff. But that's not on them. They didn't give that to you, right? They gave you
Well,
violence.
this is
They gave you
no, yeah,
violence.
this,
You took
but
it
the way you
and
responded
you
to it,
made it of it,
yeah.
and that's yours. That's not anybody else's. That's you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's something, I mean, that's what Viktor Frankl talks about, because it's like the reaction, however you respond to a situation. It's not because so many other people around him just kept on dropping dead. But in his mind, he was just like, it's just happening. It is what it is. And I think I want to retract it. It's not that I want to fix the person. Because I'm just intrigued by people's brains so much. I want to know what made them do certain things and why. I remember being young and wanting to go into prisons and just wanting to understand, because like what went wrong. I just not yeah what did you do? Why did you decide to do that? Because not that I want to fix them at all. Everybody's got to decide that for themselves, but it's just interesting of like what happened. So I find that, but I also do like that you said that it's my reaction on how I took what happened to me and I made it actually a gift for myself. And I worked really hard to come to the point where I thanked this person. It wasn't an overnight thing for sure, but I wanted to get to this point, and I did a big profound exercise with a man called Dr. DeMartini, and he has this method of eventually you take the most traumatic experiences of your life and you do, it's so much work mentally, it's actually rewiring your brain, and you have to keep asking these very hard questions, really facing that challenge. And eventually what you want to get through on the other side is being grateful for the experience. And that sounds insane, and it's not for everyone obviously, but I'd rather, as you said, release whatever happened, get that over and done with, so I don't have to focus on it. Whereas right now we have a culture of everybody being triggered by everything. It's like, bro, it's not my responsibility. I'm not going to change my language just so I don't trigger you. Like, you have to face this, and you can't face your pain if you keep running away from it and asking everybody around you to not trigger you. That's just not going to happen. We live in a world with 8 billion people. People
It's
are going to trigger you. So you want to get to the point where you don't get triggered by people. So that's like ownership and control, which I think a lot of people don't want to face that truth because it's uncomfortable. Like,
well,
I don't want to hurt you on purpose, but it might happen. So how do you deal with it so you don't get triggered?
well, okay. I'm gonna step into this very lightly, because I don't like to go too much into, I don't know if I'd call it politics or whatnot. People talk a lot about privilege nowadays, and like,
Mhm.
what's more privilege than, don't say things that are going to offend me? Like, come on, like I live in Israel. Like, we get rockets here. We have terrorist attacks. Like and Israel is a phenomenal place, right? It's a
Mhm.
beautiful, modern, Western country. Like you said, there are people who don't have access to clean water. People are hungry. Like in India, people now, like by the tens of thousands, are dying because they don't have adequate hospital care. Like those
And food
are
and water.
those are
And food and
things,
water.
and for,
Yeah.
yeah, those are things that 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 are hard to deal with. So yeah, we need to. It's a privilege, and on the one hand, I'm happy, I'm grateful that those are the things that that many people have to worry about. That their biggest concern is getting a.
Mm.
Maybe I'm not going to dismiss it that far to say that the biggest concern is getting offended. I think it's maybe certainly in their it's, let's say, it's connected to bigger things of equal rights and things like that.
Mm.
It's not fair to say that it's just about being offended, but yeah, I think we certainly need to see the bigger picture, and we resilience is certainly a value. I
Mm.
want to, like I said, we'll touch into this. I'm not going any more deeper into
Bye.
these things. We spoke about solo travel, that you traveled a lot,
Mhm.
and I don't think a lot of, maybe some people listening to this know you, maybe some don't, but when you say that you traveled solo a lot, that you traveled professionally, that's in no means an exaggeration. What is the best job on the planet?
Yeah. So what was the best job on the planet? Uh, Essentially, there was a competition that was running, and it was to travel the world for 3 months, 12 locations, all expenses paid, and you got paid $10,000 a month for it. And I was broke as anything at the time. And my brother sent me the link. He's like, hey, there's this job going around. We should apply. And it was 24 hours left to go. And I was like, yeah, I'm applying. This is my job. And I went with, that was fun because I remember my head, I was in a pretty shit space then. And I just doubled down and I said, this is mine. Nobody else is getting it. And it was this switch in my head. And it was fascinating to observe myself. And so I submitted to the best of my abilities in less than 24 hours this video that was a 1 minute application with all my credentials. I did a great job at that. Went on to the next round. Then I had to do some other marketing stuff, which is great because my background has been marketing since I was 19. So I did all the best marketing work that I could on that second round. Then the third round came along and I got that one as well. I forget what the third round was. I mean, the last round was getting your followers or people online to support you and vote for you. And yeah, I won out of 17,000 applicants, which was pretty insane. And so I ended up, traveling 2 months later. I went for a trip around the world and I traveled to all those places. And it sounds really glamorous, like you're just sitting on the beaches enjoying yourself. Essentially, I didn't stop working for 3 months.
Where'd you go?
So the background,
Where'd you go?
I went to Bali, Indonesia. Wow, am I going to be able to remember? Croatia, Spain, Gibraltar, which was a funny one. Where else did I go? I went to China, which was incredible. That was fascinating. I went on a boat. It was Fiji, and I ended up in Australia. There was a few other ones, but I went everywhere. It was pretty cool. It was interesting experience.
And where did you stay when you were traveling to all these places?
I stayed in their home. So it was a company called Third Home, and they have luxury homes all around the world, essentially. People that have a spare house.
Nice.
So I just went to their spare houses and I stayed there and I promoted their house and the area around that. It was really good. It was my there was the most intense 3 months of my life. I didn't sleep for the 3 months. I had one day off the entire 3 months because you have to travel so much, the jet lag is real, the distances you had to go were so far. I had to take photos, like 1,500 photos a week, professional photos, and then 4 videos a week, and then 2 blog posts. Like, it was a lot of work, but I learned so much, and then it helped me to set myself up to be able to produce so fast so I can do my YouTube career, which is the next chapter of my life that helped me to propel myself forward. And then, I basically stayed traveling for another 2 years after that, just doing my own thing. And that was cool. That was a job and a half. It was like a childhood dream, travel the world and get paid for it. Check. Definitely did that.
And then you just travel and, you know, and produce for your YouTube channel and for the different channels that you run your stuff on.
Yeah. Just wherever I felt like going, I just went and created YouTube videos the whole time. It was it was great. For 2.5 years, roughly, I was doing that. So a total of maybe 3.5 years of almost full-time travel and just producing like a crazy woman.
I think people don't appreciate. I think people who haven't experienced it a bit of, you know, we've done some Krav Maga, you know, instructional videos and some things, and like the amount of work that goes into creating a piece of, especially at the level of the stuff that, like, allow me to give you a bit of compliments, but at the level of the stuff that you produce is, yeah, it's hours upon hours upon hours of editing and getting the angles right, and it's hard work.
It is a lot of hard work, and I like that people don't know. I think it's fun that people think that it just happens so easily. I guess when you're so good at your job that you make something complex look easy, that's the fun part. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. But I mean, if a camera can give you access to the entire world, and to even working out with you, are you kidding? I just walked in and I was like, hey, I want to do this Krav Maga thing, and then you were training me. I mean, no one else would have given me the time of day if I didn't have this YouTube channel behind me, I don't think, to get your time, how often we were training. That was insane. I mean, it just progressed me so much further and faster than I could have ever imagined. So the opportunities are incredible for it. But the video is doing really well. How good is that video doing?
It's certainly one of the top videos on YouTube for Krav Maga, but I love it because it's not like different from, let's say, the traditional videos where you have, you know, this Krav Maga instructor, you know, doing his crazy moves, and he's you know, Steven Seagal, Jackie Chan, you know, he's showing all the skill sets and everything. And this is something that, you know, 99.9% of the population will ever be able to do. Certainly not the people watching the video. It's nice, it's inspirational, but it has no relevancy maybe to the people actually watching the videos. And then there's your video, which is somebody who's never done a lesson of Krav Maga in their life, and going, you are a bit insane because it's not how can I, so you were training with us in Australia. I was based in Australia back then for a bit at our school, Krav Maga Defense Institute in Sydney, and you were training over there for 30 days, every single day pretty much, and they've got classes on every day over there, and you were doing multiple hours a day. Often, I think when you started, you were doing the lunchtime class, which is an hour, and then you're doing 2 to 3 hours every night, and you're doing that every day. Like, I was thinking about the other day, like it's not
really.
No, it's really amazing to see how, look, it's something quite unique in Krav Maga. It's kind of a human experiment that you did in Krav Maga, because generally Krav Maga it's obviously taught to soldiers in the Israeli army, and the goal is to get them proficient in being able to protect themselves in a relatively short time. But even there, like, the amount of hours that are able to be dedicated to Krav Maga are, you know, maybe 4 hours a week, best case scenario. Between, well, it depends on the unit, but, you know, in between, you know, shooting, in between marching, orienteering, like, there's so many skill sets that, you know, a professional a combat soldier, a war fighter, needs to learn. Krav Maga is one of those skill sets. It's an important one. It's not the main one, right? We obviously, we don't spend a lot of time fist fighting as as infantry soldiers or as Navy SEALs or whatever. Like, yeah, it's it's pretty extreme when it happens, and it certainly does happen when you got to, you got to use your hands, you got to use your feet, you got to use your weapon to strike instead of shoot. So that's a life and death situation by definition anytime it comes, but it doesn't happen that often, and happens because of some things that failed. So soldiers, okay, maybe if you're in a combat team, maybe for, let's say, 6 hours a week, and that's during your training period. I'm not even talking about when you're operational, where it's going to be much less. If you're a civilian, training ranges from a couple of times a week to maybe if you're gung-ho, and we certainly have a lot of people that are really gung-ho, they'll come and they'll do maybe 2 hours 3-4 times a week, and that's for guys who are extreme. We've got a training camps in Israel where people come in for about a week, and we train 8 hours a day from morning to night, but a week is probably a good chunk of time, because afterwards people's bodies just start to fall apart. Doesn't matter how fit they are. And then you come in and you're training like a professional athlete, right? You go like, look, if I'm training in to be a professional boxer, sure, if I'm training at an Olympic level for competitive sport, I'll do it every day, every single day for hours. And also my training is going to be like, if I come for a 1 hour session, what I do in that 1 hour is going to be very different for if I rock up for a 6 hour training session, or let's say even for a 3 hour block. Okay. But you came in and you did these classes that is designed to be trained for 1 hour, but you did like 4 of them every single day. So how would I say it? It's not the manufacturer's recommended dosage. And I say that as the manufacturer, right? For the training programs in the Krav Maga Defense Institute. So it was absolutely fun, amazing to see the progress, to see the challenge you made, and it produced. I mean, the video, I see it as a byproduct. It was from my side, it was beautiful to see what the journey that you went on, and it certainly made, it's a very different video from just some meathead like me, showing off their fancy fancy gun disarms and flips, and you see just a normal person. I use normal very hesitantly to describe you, but somebody without experience into Krav Maga, and yeah, the journey that you did on that, it was, yeah. So what, yeah. How was it like
thank you for seeing it.
and yeah, and I had the fortune also to train with you. We did a few one-on-one sessions throughout the week, and we put together some stuff. It was yeah, from my end, it was a lot of fun. How about you? Like I said, for most normal people, it's not the definition of fun. It's pretty close to the definition of torture. But you seem to.
Yeah, I loved it. I think because I come from a background of being almost a professional swimmer when I was young. So I trained around 4 hours a day from the age of 8 until 16. So putting myself under excruciating circumstances with a coach that believes in you. I have to, now that I've grown up and I don't have that, I have to say, because I was thinking of you the other day and you contacted me and I was like, I was thinking of you, because it's someone that is going to push you, is going to say, get off your ass, do better than this. And will also be there, and is saying it from a place of like care. They don't want to hurt you. They want to make you better. And I love having coaches, because I've had it since I was a young kid as a swimmer. And that's my whole childhood was that. And then to go into the adult world and not have that is just, it's just a bit sad, because who do you turn to? Who's going to be your coach? It's so much harder to turn to someone. Like, your parents might have done a great job as a coach when you were growing up, but having a mentor is so spectacular. A coach per se, I think that's so special. That's why I really enjoyed it. And I'm always seeking someone like this. So I actually miss it. There should be coaching like this for adults. I don't know. How do we bring back that for adulting? That's what my question is.
I agree, and I think it's a skill set. I think as you reach a certain level of a certain stage of adulthood, I think it's really about surrounding and seeking out people that you want to learn from. That, as you said, it
Mhm.
can be mentors, it could be a peer group. It's, as kids, we kind of, we grow up, and the people that are around are the people who have things in common with you. You just kind of connect, and that becomes your wolf pack. But as you get older, I find it's quite helpful to seek out people that have a specific a skill set or a knowledge, or something that you want to learn, and seek them out and either make friends with them, or uh, it's and I find that a lot of people who are accomplished, a lot of people, they, if you approach it nice, and if you approach it with humility, and you're genuine about just wanting to learn, a lot of people are happy to share their knowledge and skills, and to kind of help somebody on it. It's not true for everybody, but for me, as let's put it separate. I'm not talking about as a coach. I'm talking about technically, on the Krav Maga skills, just on the Krav Maga skills. I think there's we separate in Krav Maga. I've separated when I train people. I've separated into three levels. We have we have the trainer, the instructor, and the coach. Right. The trainer, they know the moves. Right. They know the Krav Maga moves. They know them well, and they can deliver the moves to you. And at that level, at the trainer level, then when you start teaching it, you need it forces you to kind of look at your own techniques and your movements better. You got to really understand them well in order to be able to transfer them to somebody else. So it makes you grow as just as a practitioner in your skill set, in your moves become better by teaching them. You got to continue training yourself too, and you got to have your own coaches to follow. But you got to the next level. So we've got the trainer level, which is this is a technical knowledge. I know how to do this maneuver or those maneuvers, and I can pass that on. The next level is the instructor, where I can kind of fit it into, let's say, more of a lesson plan. So it's not like, okay, I know how to kick, now I'm going to teach you how to kick, but actually I know how to take the kick and the punch and the choke, and I know how to put them together in a way that's coherent and can make better trainees. I can kind of build a program rather than just let's say regurgitate what I've learned. And the highest level is the coach, where this is really, I say, the coach is the guy who's going to come at 6 a.m., shake you out of bed and say, wake up, it's time to get to training. It's the person there's a different level of commitment from them to you as well. The person that's training, they get into your head, and they can coach you not just on the moves, but let's say if the trainer can give you the moves, and the instructor can kind of formulate and maybe at some level also adapt and program it to the group that they're teaching, then the coach can really get into the head of each person that they're training individually, and they can really sense where you're at. You got to have a lot of, I say, to be a really good coach, the starting phase is you got to have a lot of empathy. You got to really feel people. You got to coach them from where they're at, not where you're at. Remember, we spoke about the ego at the beginning of this conversation. And if it's all about me, it's all about, I'm so great, I'm going to teach you guys, and that's, if it's reflective on me, then that doesn't make a very good coach. And there are a lot of people out there too. A lot of people who like to teach, and like, especially in the martial arts, because they like the tension. They like everybody to go, yeah, this guy's a killer. He's the head honcho. He can really kick ass. They really thrive. And to me, my ability as a coach, because I'm not a professional fighter. I mean, I'm a soldier, right? It's different.
That's professional.
It's let's say I'm not a professional competitive fighter. Let's say
Oh,
soldiers.
that's good. Yeah.
So, but to be a good coach, it's you really got to kind of cancel yourself out to a certain extent, and be able to go into the other person's mind and say, okay, what do they need right now? What are they feeling? What are, what's
Mhm.
stopping them from succeeding? What are the things that they're, and that takes a lot of empathy. You got to really listen, and you really got to feel. And at some point, it's also a certain level of, I don't want to call it like a talent or a skill, but some, sometimes you either got it, like you can really, there are people that just, are empathetic, that people come to them with their problems. And
Mhm.
those people kind of tend to make very good coaches. And maybe they're not, they're not the best martial artists in the world. Maybe they can't kick the highest or something, but they can really make good students. And making good students and making people good is not just about, getting the most talented people out there, but it's about the progress. It's, in martial arts, it's always the people who are the smallest, the people who are the least aggressive, they're the ones who need it the most, right? It's not a big, if I take somebody who's naturally big and fit and very fast and very coordinated, um, you know, whatever instructor they're going to meet, they're probably going to do pretty well. But
Mhm.
it's,
Mhm.
but also not necessarily, because those are the physical aspects, right? Often, the people who are really big, strong, fit and stuff, that comes with mental aspects too, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to go too much into this, but like Mike Tyson, one of the best heavyweights of all times, probably the best in my opinion. um Geez, he sure came with a lot of mental and emotional um, problems, handicaps, if you will. And if he
Yeah.
hadn't have met D'Amato, which was his coach, there's no way he would have become a criminal. There's no way he would have
Ah.
become world heavyweight champion. It takes a lot of discipline. And same thing. Once D'Amato died, once he was no longer in Mike Tyson's corner, Mike Tyson was never the same. Um,
Damn.
so
See, that's what I'm saying. Like coaches are so vital, and there's a complete lack of them unless it's in the sports scene. And then you have life coaches, but there is just the energy that was when you were coaching me. It was so different because I knew we weren't like friends or anything like that. It wasn't that energy. It was more of a you're here to train. I'm going to get the best out of you. Get in the ring. Like let's punch some shit. And I always knew that you had a level of respect because I was also showing up. Like if I wasn't showing up, you would have easily forgotten about it. You would have been like, whatever, what is this kid? Get out of my face. But because I was there and I was like, please train me. I want to get better at this. This is something I really want to do. And I proved myself. I think in your head, you were like, oh, she really wants this. So then you were willing to put the mental energy into taking care of me from a side of, I'll get the most out of you. And you cared. And that's the difference. And for a high achiever like myself, I crave that of someone, not because I'm paying them or, because you can pay life coaches galore, but it's someone that there is this, I see you, you're not at your best and I can bring the best out of you and I'll be there, but you better prove yourself. And that's the energy that I think definitely high achievers need. So where is that? Where is that energy that's not in the, because that's, I guess, why Mike Tyson also became so great, because there was this respect and the coach was like, you're going to do your best. If you don't, I'm not going to train you. And that's probably where he saw the potential. But if Mike Tyson didn't bring the trying to prove the coach that he was willing to do the work, it would not have worked either.
I think that's a very good point. I think that it's a very good, let's say, tip to keep in mind, that if you are looking, to form these friendships, and you're looking for mentors, and if you are looking even for teachers and for trainers, if you want to get the most, if you want them to be willing to give you and to invest in you, you got to bring yourself to it too. You got to, and that's how you kind of pay your your tuition fee, not
Mm-hmm.
by money, but by willing to invest of yourself. And it's very easy to come in and to rock up to any class and to pay your tuition fee, and to on day one to go, I'm gung-ho, I'm all in, I want to become.
Mm-hmm.
We get that so much in our industry. We get somebody, day one, first class, they go, I love this, I want to become a Krav Maga instructor. How do I do that? And I go, well, come tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, no, but how do I get how do I get, I say, you know, first of all, how do you know you even, this is your first class? It seems awesome. How, you know, wait for a few more classes until you decide that you really like this. You really like this thing, that that it's really for you. You might discover it's not. And second of all, like,
Hmm.
yeah, you got to be all in. I'm not making light of, of coming in and being, but actions speak louder than words. And it's much easier to come and say, yeah, I'm all in. But what we really see and what we look at is, how much of yourself you're putting in. That would be my tip, whether it's in a Krav Maga class, if you want to get noticed,
Hmm.
if you do want to become an instructor one day, is, come in, shut your mouth, do the work, and you'll get noticed. You gotta do the work. You gotta be there. You gotta keep on
Hmm.
pushing to let the opportunities happen. You can't just sit back and go, well, you try once and you go, well, I'm unlucky. They're lucky. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta really push. You
Amen.
gotta have persistence, and then maybe you have bad luck, but that's not a factor, because odds are, the statistics are, that if you keep on pushing, keep on pushing, keep on pushing, whatever you did, and whatever you do, and you're serious at it, eventually you can have the worst luck in the world. You roll, so many times, it it it,
Mm.
it, it happens. It certainly happens.
Yeah. And I think about this, my one dream when I was young, the one that I would never ever let go of was two dreams, but they work together. It was to travel the world and get paid for it, and to work online so I could work from wherever I wanted to. And there was no one that was going to get in my way of that. And I worked 10 years to try to make money online succeed for me. And I failed so many times. Like, it was painful how many times I failed, and it was embarrassing, and I lost money. And I think a lot of people around that stage, they just give up and they're like, oh, it doesn't happen, it doesn't work. But there was no giving up in my head. I was like, this is my dream. This is what's going to happen. And I just kept going and going and going. So yeah, I often think about people that say, oh, you can't do a certain thing. I'm like, no, I think you just didn't do it for long enough. I think that's about it. Like, you didn't refine your strategy. You have to, okay, that fails a little bit. Let me refine. Let me try that again. That still failed. Let me try it again. And you just keep going. And then you have to find these little pockets of opportunities that have opened up, and you just go for it. These little tiny, tiny hints of opportunities that don't seem like much, but there's a big potential. You just have to like sniff them out and just go for it. Yeah, persistence is definitely key for sure.
100%, 100%. I've found it through everything I did, whether it's, whether the Krav Maga, and it's, in the businesses that I've set up over the years. It's hard work, and it's just, you got to have this. It's a certain personality type that you discuss, and you've certainly got it. I recognize it as well within my. It's that you kind of set this path, and you have a vision of how you're going to get there, and you just keep on pushing and you keep on going. That like the possibilities of not succeeding is not even there. So a lot of people say, look, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to get there, and then they made a roadblock, and they go, well, I guess, it's, I
Wasn't meant
have
to
bad
be.
luck, it wasn't meant to be, or it's impossible, or I can't do it, or maybe they try another time. We also discussed the beginning about the humility too, right? To become a black belt, to become a high level, it's, you got to fail so many times, and to use that to grow, and and to learn, rather than to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, not a lot of people, they fail, and then it demoralizes them, it demolishes them, and also then they take that with them as baggage to the next thing, right? They go, well, I couldn't do
Mm-hmm.
this, and then I'm going to go somewhere else, and then it's also a matter of, it's fun. It all comes kind of full circle. Excuse me if I'm doing too much inception, thing, but it also ties back to what we were discussing before about, even if people who are abused, or that, it's about taking ownership of it and taking responsibility of it. So it's like, I go towards my goal, and then when I fail, let's say, this was my plan, I don't even like the word fail, but it didn't work what I thought would work. So either I take responsibility of that and go, well, I must have missed something, maybe I fucked this up, or maybe I just didn't know, and let's see what I can do differently. And then
Mm-hmm.
I grow and I keep on going towards the goal, because if I take it on myself, then I can do something about that. But if I externalize it and I say, well, I wanted to start this online business, and not I failed, it failed. It didn't work. So then I go, well, maybe it failed because it's impossible. It wasn't me. I did my best. It was that thing out there. So it can't be done, or I can't do it, or just I had bad luck. So all these things that we've been speaking about, it's kind of like all side effects of this certain personality type that that takes responsibility over what happened, not over just over not over just what they do, but over the results or the things that happen. And then,
Yeah.
that's the thing. If you have that humility and the ability to take responsibility, and you couple that with persistence, nothing ever is going to stop you. You're just,
Yeah.
you're just a juggernaut. You're just going to keep on going, and you'll hit it eventually. Just a matter of
Yeah.
how
And
much
it's
you want it.
obviously, just to clarify for my brain, I guess, but it's not, I often, because I've been such a big proponent of, taking personal responsibility my whole life, this has been such a big thing that I find it fascinating that we get a chance to do this. So, people that have been through abusive situations, it happened. But again, what Victor was saying and what you've just mentioned, it's that happened. You have now the responsibility of reacting to what happened, not acting according to what happened. So you can wallow in that, which is, lots of people go through hell in their life as well. And you can continue doing that. It's your choice in the end. If Victor could have done it, if he got out and he went through that much torture, and that speaks volumes. And it's everybody's next to you. There's someone else that, you might have had a way worse situation than most people. But it still is your life and it's your experiences, and you can't change it, but you can change it moving forward. Yeah.
And
Don't want to sound like an expert in this because I haven't gone through absolute hell in my life, but I always just think what would help me in my life at this time. I don't want to think about what happened. I'd like to learn the lessons and move on so I can make the rest of my life awesome. I guess that's how I see life.
Look, everybody has their struggles in their life, and these struggles are not objective, they're very subjective, right? This person was through that. I don't really like, it's something that I used to do when I was much younger, which is kind of minimize whatever experiences, certainly the experiences that I was going through, of going, okay, this and this has happened to you in that life. Like, who are you to complain? Their children starving in Africa, or I don't have to go that far. My grandparents, were prisoners in Nazi death camps. Like, what do you possibly have to be, to be upset about? But it's not. I don't find that attitude so constructive. Certainly not being a victim, but there's definitely place. That's kind of like the voice in my head always, growing up, and certainly in the army, it's like, toughen up, stop being a bitch, get through it, stop whining, harden the fuck up. And it's nice, like it gets results. It's not a very pleasant voice. It's not a very nice personal coach in your head. And what I'm personally working on now is, like, you have empathy towards other people, towards the people that you're coaching. There's also if you want to be able to coach yourself, there's also got to be some place for empathy too. You also got to recognize, first of all, the struggle. Certainly, this is the thing. Maybe I don't go. Certainly for not just men, but it's certainly something in men of we repress our feelings. It's like, whatever's happening, just shut it off, toughen up, don't deal with it. It's not not relevant. Just get the job done. And
that is such BS.
it's
good for a period of time, but there has to be a point, again, like now you're coming to terms with, you have to have empathy for yourself. And I'm learning self-care towards myself, because I have that little Sorelle in me that still wants to be loved. And you have the little Ron that wants to be loved. We're still all little kids in an adult shell. So at some point we have to turn around and say, okay, maybe don't harden the fuck up. Let's see what's happening, what's going on. But obviously there are moments where you can harden the fuck up, and there are moments where you can go back and take care of yourself, because that's, if you don't take care of yourself, that's, as I said, I think sometimes hurt people do hurt. So addressing that is also good.
Yeah, I can't help. Excuse me, but I'm going to stay in my delusion. I'm going to say that it's part of hardening the fuck up. That you also got to address the. You can't ignore. It's all beautiful, to be Rambo, and you've been shot, and you're just gonna keep on fighting and completely ignore that you've got like 15 bullets in your leg. Okay, that's one way. That's one way to go out of it, but doesn't really have longevity, and it's going to come back to bite you in the ass once you pass out from blood loss or something. There's another approach that's maybe also worthwhile considering, is stopping the fight for a second, taking cover, dealing with the injury, let it heal, and then you come back into the fight much more whole and stronger, as much more resilient as a human being. So I think that recognizing the places of where you're hurting is okay, is actually quite good, as long as you don't take it into place of victimhood, of not saying, oh well, I'm hurting, therefore it's saying, no, I'm hurting, there's an obstacle here, and let's stop a second, let's understand what's hindering me here, let's see how we can heal that. Or at least sometimes it's just, I find when you're arguing with somebody and with something very emotional, sometimes, more often than not, people just need to be heard. People just want, you don't need to say that you're right. That's about empathy. There's a guy, Chris Voss. He was a brilliant book he wrote, Never Split the Difference. It's about, he's a hostage negotiator for the FBI. And he did a lot of hostage negotiator with terrorists, a lot of, and what he talks about is tactical empathy. It's about hearing out the other side. I don't need to necessarily agree, right? I hear you that you don't want to go to prison. I hear you that you're afraid that if you come out of the door, we're going to shoot you. I hear you. It doesn't mean that I agree that you're not going to go to prison, but often, a lot of times, just hearing out the other person on what's hurting them, and what that's certainly goes to help. That's what the other side wants. And if you kind of flip that back onto yourself, sometimes just hearing out those sides of yourself that are hurting, hearing out, we don't need to go too deep into the psychology, right? I'm training, I'm in the middle of a sparring match, right? I've just been hit into the solar plexus. I can't breathe, and every ounce of my body is saying, like, stop. Okay, but I don't want to stop. Okay, but sometimes just going out and hearing, going, Jesus, wow, I'm really out of breath, I'm really struggling. Okay, and now I'm going to work with it, rather than going, nah, this is nothing, I'm just gonna power through. You got to acknowledge that you're tired. Okay, so also, so that you can adapt your strategy. Doesn't mean that you're going to give up, it doesn't mean that you stop, but you got to, if you don't recognize that in the third round that you're barely breathing, and you continue fighting as if you're fresh, and you completely put that out, you're not going to go very far. And certainly when we go into psychological things of, if there are areas in your life that are hurting, or they're stopping you, stop, hear them out, try to understand them, see if there's something useful there, and use that in order to grow. And that's something that I'm working on. That's something I certainly haven't mastered it. There's still the voice in my head that says, toughen up, stop your whining, get through it. But I've also got now this other voice that says, wait a second, this might not be the most effective way to get the result that you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially hearing it from a man that is so well trained as a machine. I think it's really important for, because I think dudes have a really hard time in the world right now. It is this attitude of just toughen up, and that's it. There's no room for anything else. And it's nice to acknowledge that through your own journey, you've discovered that taking care of yourself psychologically and dealing with pain points is not a weakness, it's actually helping you to refine yourself a strategy for growth. And I think that's really important. So it's good that I hope the narrative's changing. I don't know what it's like to be a young man. I have no idea, a young teenage boy growing up, and if that's still so prevalent, like just shut up and be a man, because I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's also the other end of the spectrum of, of the participation trophies and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a bit beyond my
Yeah.
for now. I think it's more complex than we can go into now. But I think that
Yeah.
if there's certainly an understanding that if you repress things, and it's certainly been true to my experiences myself and friends of mine that have had bouts with battle-induced PTSD. It comes back to bite you in the ass if you don't treat it. And it doesn't have to be to the extreme of PTSD. It can be even smaller things in your life. If you don't stop and you don't listen to yourself and you don't really try to understand yourself, then and you just repress, these are things that can come out and manifest themselves in other points. And that's what we spoke about earlier as well in a conversation. The violence that you experienced as a child, it's important to hear them out, to listen to yourself, to go out, because if you don't do that work, then what you said, it can manifest itself in ways that you don't expect and that you don't have control of. But since you have done that work, the likelihood of it just coming and blindsiding you is much less likely, because it's a part of yourself that you're aware of and that and that you own.
Yeah. Truth.
I wanted to ask you a couple of things, maybe just before we finish off. The Krav Maga challenge wasn't the Krav Maga 30 days wasn't the only thing we got into. You did a couple of other crazy ones.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a creator, I've had an interesting journey. I guess I've been able to just explore my interests. So now I'm actually learning to also on the sidelines, because why not? I'm a best-selling author now as of yesterday. Plus, all of these other things.
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's pretty amazing.
It's my life just doesn't make sense. And I think that's what I like, because now I'm learning to become a recording artist in 30 days, which is really fun. And then after that, I'm going to learn bass for 30 days and just see how I go. And then maybe Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then surfing in Iceland for, in the freezing cold. So it's cool, because as a kid that I could never box myself in, I just found somewhere where I can just, I look at my life and I've just done so many things, and I'm 32, which is pretty rad. I've still got such a long time. And because I like to fill my time with little chunks. I guess I see life as a little chunks of things, and it's like a little puzzle piece. So, I've done so much, the little chunk of traveling the world full time, little chunk of now being a best-selling author, little chunk of music, little chunk of, finance education and starting that business, which is just rad. And then just did chunks of time. So I don't look at time as time. I look at time as chunks and filling it with different skills. I find that to work really well. And I'm glad I found a career that can support me in that as well.
It seems pretty fluid. I guess it's quite I don't want to say lucky, because I don't think luck has a lot to do with it, but it's pretty unique to be able to, you don't get bored. You go from one topic that interests you, you go into it, and then you go to that. I like the aspect of all the time, of learning, of constantly learning, of going into new topic, immersing yourself in it completely. And it's very good for the brain. There's the benefits of of going something and doing it for 20 years and getting a very refined level of expertise. But there's also the level of all the time hitting yourself with something completely, constantly throwing yourself out of your comfort zone, and that becomes a skill within itself, of going, what can I find that I'm not good at or that I've never done before, and let's do that. And then I go into something else, and then you just become let's say your skill set or your expertise becomes in learning new things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from a very young age, I always saw having a strange combination of skills makes you a bit more I don't like to use this word, but in the career context, it makes you more valuable, because if you can bring weird skill sets to the table, you're like, hey, this is what I have. People are like, whoa, I can't, this skill set really exists in so few people. And this is exactly what I need. I will pay you extra for whatever service.
Well,
Because if
it's
you
not
just have
just,
an everyday,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, if you just have one stock standard cutout, you fit into a box really well, awesome. That might work for some people. Some people just hone in on one thing and they're just really good at one thing and they become masters at one thing. And that's also a different strategy you can take if you have a one-track mind. But then my mind doesn't work that way. I want to do everything. I want to trial everything. I'm really like thirsty for life. So I will try so many different things, and as a result I have like, hey, so what can you do for me? I'm like, would you like this, like which one? And there, it's I feel like I can, and in a career sense, I have more to offer that way. And it's good.
If you're looking to get, yeah, if you're looking to get hired, yes, but also I see it from again, survival and security is something that drives me. And if you have one skill set and you know how to do just one thing, and that thing is no longer required, or you lose that thing, and where that leave you, I take a lot of comfort. Like on the one hand, I can teach anything that I know. I love teaching and I love passing on knowledge. That's a skill set. I know how to hurt people really badly, or more. How can I put it in a more positive way? I know how to protect. I know how to protect the people that I love from violence. I've got the skill set in military operations and a leg in that, which is interesting me. But I also know how to run a business, and I know how to raise chickens, and how to grow my own vegetables, and how to carpenter, and having all these skill sets, it means if I wasn't teaching Krav Maga professionally, then I'm very capable of running any other business, because I have this financial understanding, and I have this legal understanding that's required, in the taxation understanding that you need to have if you're running a business. And same things, that especially now during COVID, that's what I found myself. I mean, it's always been my dream. One of the reasons why we moved back to Israel here. Like I grew up, on the countryside. It's a rural area, and I love working the land. I love growing vegetables. I love raising animals. I find it very therapeutic. This connection to the land, I'd say. But
I definitely.
But yeah,
you're a machine when it comes to business. That's the one thing that I wanted to touch on. But the thing about you is, as you said, you do so many things, and you're just so incredibly humble about it. But you're an absolute machine at it. And that's to me very interesting. Like, how on earth did you learn all the skills and all that process?
I love problem solving, and that's nice. Kind of my approach to. I love things that are difficult, and I love having having a problem, sitting on it and getting it done. And if you've ever run a business, that's really that's really all it's about. It's about problem solving, and it's about ultimately taking responsibility over everything. Whenever I'm visiting, I've got a lot of friends who run CrossFit gyms, who run fighting gyms, who run Krav Maga gyms, who run jiu-jitsu gyms, and I always tease them. It's always the school owner. It's always the business owner that you see mopping the floor or cleaning up the it's at the end of the, because it's their responsibility from everything from the start to the finish. And I love that. On the one hand, people want like the power, people want the control, let's say, and that's okay. And that's fine to have power over yourself and over that's the beautiful thing about owning a business. To a certain extent, you control the things that are happening around you, but that comes with a lot of freaking responsibility, and it also comes with a cost. Like I've had I've had even years, like if the business doesn't make money, you don't get a paycheck. And that's kind of the aspect of it. A lot of the times people who are entrepreneurs or people who set up businesses, they go, well, this is awesome. I don't have to rely on anybody for my paycheck. And I don't, there's no cap. I can earn as much as I can, as much value or as much as I can generate. That's cool, but that's only the beautiful part of the equation, right? The other part of the equation is, can you go without earning any money for a year if that's what happens? Like if everything goes to shit, are you okay with moving back in with your parents, if you even have parents that can take you in? Like there's a very, very hard and dark part of this. Are you game with working every morning from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed? And can you sustain that for 6-7 years on end, and to do it for less than minimum wage? If the answer is no, and for most people and in most circumstances, it's very reasonable to say no, then it's maybe it isn't for you. And I'm not even talking about, there some businesses, most businesses also require a certain amount of investment into it. Some things you can bootstrap, some things you can grow gradually. Other things, you got to be able to come up. Like, can you go to the bank and borrow $100,000, and then if everything flops, have to pay that back for the next 5 years while you're living with your parents? Is that a price that you're willing to pay? And the chances that odds are against you, because most businesses fail in the first 5 years. So
that's why I'm against like taking loans out. That's to me. But your business structure is so different. I did everything as almost a one-man team
no,
the whole time.
I grew all my businesses. I started teaching at a community center, Krav Maga, twice a week. I had to borrow equipment I didn't have money even I had a friend who had a Krav Maga gym. I had to borrow half of the equipment. And after the first training day, I had enough money. I went with every cent that was paid by the students at the first time to go in and buy a bit more of the equipment that I need. I started without.
Wow.
Actually, that's not true. I got $1,000 loan from my grandmother, the Holocaust survivor. $750 of that loan went onto insurance to start off with, and the other $250 went on rent. And that's the only leverage I've ever taken. Would I start it now differently, having the experience that I have? Probably. I mean, leveraging, if you're taking out loans, it's a way to get to where you want much quicker, sometimes years quicker. But it comes at a lot of risk. And also I did it at a phase in my life where I could afford to do that. I was a university student, and not having a penny, not having an income, like I could deal with it now that, I'm a dad, and I've got a daughter, which, I want to send to school, which, goes to different, which goes to different after school activities that I want to be able to buy. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd have the ability or even the balls to take on those risks. It's not even balls. These risks aren't now mine to take. You can take the risks when you're the only ones that they affect, but when they affect your kids, when they affect your wife, or also when they affect you having to fall back onto your parents, they're not just yours to risk to take on your own. And it's not everybody everybody thinks that they're going to succeed. Nobody. I don't know one person who set up a business and said, you know what, I'm probably going to fail. Everybody's sure that they're going to be the exception to the rule, but most businesses fail. That's just the fact.
Yeah, and it's a fail, and then you can keep going. But that's why you were in your 20s. Did you say when you started everything as well?
Yeah, probably. I was fresh out of my military service in the army. I came to Australia to study at university, and so I was a bit of an older. That was a bit funny. You go to university, everybody's 17, 18-year-old Australian kids growing up in the eastern suburbs, and here I am straight from the West Bank, first sergeant, coming out of nowhere. They used to ask me, uni students are funny. They always have the best questions. I used to get this. They used to go, So you get two questions you get asked a lot by kids, right? They're kids because they've never met somebody who's been to war, right? And
Yeah.
I was pretty much a kid by right. I was what was I was maybe 22, 23 at the time. That's a kid as well.
Kids.
And
Yeah.
and but you know it ages you pretty quickly. Combat,
Yeah.
combat and being in the military, you get to know a lot about yourself and a lot about life very quickly in the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
Leon's a soldier as well.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you learn the value of life, you learn the value of discipline. But the kids used to ask
Mm.
me a is that they like to ask, oh, did you ever see anybody killed? Did you? And okay, yeah, I didn't take that. I know it's just kids. I know they're not being insensitive. They just want to ask about it, and they want to know, did you ever kill anybody? So I had a really good answer to that. After getting asked that a couple of times, I'd look them straight in the eye, and then I'd look down at my fingers, and I'd start counting my fingers just quietly, right? And then I look them back, and I go, "Do you mean with my bare hands or with a gun?" And or in other words, ask stupid questions, you'll get a stupid answer.
Yeah, exactly. But I
But
was just gonna say, I think the 20s is a good to me, like
yes,
the 20s is where you should be as rebellious as possible and just go against all the grain of society, all the rules, everything. If you can, in whatever capacity you have, just like destroy that 20 years, just go for it. Because otherwise, I mean, I've noticed myself now, my risk tolerance is definitely already slowly, gradually going down. And that kind of sucks. I didn't think that it would happen. I thought I'd forever just be like, well, I don't care, risk. But now, because you acquire houses, you acquire property, maybe I might have a kid, all these things start stacking up. I'm like, whoa, I'm adulting like hardcore now. And in my 20s, everything was just like, I don't care if I ended up with, and how many times did I end up with no money and having to go to my grandma's house so I could eat some food? How often that happened. I couldn't do it now. I mean, I definitely could. I definitely could if everything was stripped, but would I want to?
exactly.
That's a different story. So yeah, 20s should be just like full steam ahead for that, I think.
I'm with you 100%. Look, part of it is biology, right? When we're younger, when we're in our 18, 19, 20, 17, like we feel invincible, right? We can feel,
Mhm.
we feel that we can do it. That's also why, by the way, they recruit into the army when you're 18 years old. I'm still a reserve soldier, coming towards the probably the last years of my service. Like, yeah, going into combat now is very different from when I was 18 years old. I've got responsibilities. I've got things to lose. When you're a young kid,
Mhm.
you know, you're in it. You're doing what you're trained to do. It's all good. It's like when you got kids, like it's like I want to come home to my family. I don't want my daughter to grow up without a dad. Like it's a much heavier weight to carry. On the one hand, you make better soldiers when you're older because you've got more experience. You make better decisions. Um, but you certainly have back to the business aspect of it. Um, is you've got more experience, so that you know that you're not as invincible as you
Mhm.
once thought. Humility comes to it too. You know that that you're not invincible, and you've as you said, you've got more to lose.
Mhm.
So if the takeaway is, yeah, when you're young, like go for it, like do it. Do everything. You don't have a lot to lose, and what's the worst? What's the worst that can happen? But again, that's a luxury. Like I've got a lot of
Yeah.
friends who were supporting their families.
Yeah.
From the moment they could work. And that's I was very fortunate that my
But that's also why it's I feel like that's why it's a luxury, but it should be taken advantage of. Because like a lot of people come at me saying like not everybody can do it. Great. If they can't do it, you do it. Don't
Hmm.
don't come at me just like straight away just but other people can't. It's like they can't, they know they can't. They're taking care of the families. That doesn't mean you. And if it does mean you, then you're in that category too. But most people just use it as an excuse. And that's what like it shits me a little bit because people are now in a position more so to defend those that can't instead of doing what they can and improving their life, and then they can help other people as well. They're just like they give up, they put up their hands so fast, and it's like that's an out, that's an easy out.
I think people like to tear, not some people like to tear down people who have succeeded here or there, because it's somehow it's a threat or it's called out. It's very easy to go. I mean, jealousy is a very natural emotion, and we've all got it. And it's very easy to go, well, that person's just lucky, or it's not right,
Mhm.
or they might. And it's also somewhat of a threat, because if they did it and I didn't do,
Yeah.
like, and I no, let me put it this way: if they did something that I wish I could do too, but I didn't do it for whatever reason, then there are two options: either something's wrong with me, or something's wrong with them.
Mm.
And like we said, my personality and your personality is, I put it back on me and I go, okay, there's something wrong with me. How can I fix it so I can do over there? But there's another type of responsibility. Let's say the person who perceives things more as out of their control, of saying, no, these things
Yeah.
happen to me. They go, well, they succeeded because they were lucky, or because they're a bad person, or because the universe is unjust. Maybe just to finish off, like, to go the circle, when my grandparents, after the war, they came to Australia. They had nothing. They were orphans. Their parents were killed. Their brothers and sisters were killed. Uncles. They had no support network. They were very fortunate. Australia allowed them to come in. I wouldn't even say taken in, because and I fiercely love Australia, and I think it's such a beautiful country. Um, but it gives the wrong perception. It's not like Australia brought in these people and no, there were local people in the Jewish community that paid for orphans to come over to Australia. The government didn't pay a cent. They didn't used to. They didn't get any support. They were sometimes adopted by, if you were a kid, like my grandparents, who were like 16, 17. They or even 14, 15. My the brothers and sisters of my grandparents, the ones that survived the war, they were adopted into family. Maybe got helped a little bit on the trade, and then that's it. And then they were on their own. They never
Yeah.
got a cent of help from the government or everything. And they took responsibility and they built
Mm.
themselves up. And in America, in Australia, a lot of the Holocaust survivors success stories. They built huge business empires, financial empires. By the way, those are the ones that are visible. A lot of people, about 30% of Holocaust survivors nowadays, there's not many left of them, are living under the poverty
Mhm.
line. Some people were completely demolished by it. But what I'm
Yeah.
coming to say is that the ones that succeeded, nobody looked at them as, nobody cared, to a sense, if they were victims, they were underprivileged. No, they had their responsibility to lift themselves up. And
Yeah.
that's very empowering. When somebody comes in, oh, you poor thing, I can't even expect for you to be, and it's a very legitimate thing. I mean, after what they've been through, it would be very legitimate to come in and to say, look, let us give you a subsidy, let us give you money so that you can feed yourself,
Mhm.
so that you can have, I mean, that's a very humane society. Back then, the world was just coming out of war. People weren't thinking that way. But I'm just thinking of where we would be today if my parents, if my grandparents got said, no, don't worry about working, get your life in order
Yeah.
first, we'll give you some money. And that stuff becomes, you get disempowered. You go, no, we don't
Yeah.
expect you to be able to work, we don't expect you to be able to make something out of yourself. You got to remember, they couldn't speak right. They came, we said the war was a gradual thing. Like, they were pulled out of
Mhm.
school when they were about 12 years old. The war, like, we're talking about a 4 or 5 year period. If even the anti-Semitism and the rules, they didn't have even a high school education.
Mhm.
They couldn't speak the language. They had no support. They had no support system. They were literally as worked as slaves. There's no other way. They were slaves. They were slaves.
Yeah.
But they, like, my grandfather, he didn't speak about it a lot. He'd take carts of dead people from the gas chambers into the furnaces. Like, and sometimes it's people that that you grew up with. Imagine, like, and he had he had a psychological baggage to, that he took with him. Um, and 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 I don't know so much where I'm going with this, but I guess my point is that I don't believe in looking at people as victims. And
No, I agree with that.
we by the way, we see Holocaust survivors, not victims. And there's no lack of evil in this world. And of course we go back to racism and slavery in the United States and other. But I think that the most empowering thing is give people the tools, but let them have ownership over building themselves up, instead of saying, no, we couldn't possibly expect you, to build yourself up to do anything with your life because of what you've been through. So let us help you. That empowers me as the person who's giving out the charity, but that doesn't, it's not sustainable for the people that I'm trying to help.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so damn true. And I like, that's why, there's chat of universal basic income. That to me is one of the scariest things, because it totally, I think, disempowers a lot of people. In my opinion, obviously some people might like it, but there's no such thing as free anything. So being able to work for something gives you that beautiful ownership that's yours and you worked for it and you can get out of it, gives you the knowledge to bounce back up from no matter what. So your grandparents are heroes.
I believe that the support, and we should help people as a society. We must, there's no other justifiable moral conclusion. Some people are much more fortunate than others, and some people are very, very unfortunate, to no fault of their own. And the way that we can help is not just by throwing money at people and creating huge government organizations that in themselves are their own industry, but actually giving people this, spending money in giving people the skills to help themselves to the best of their ability. And yeah, but I don't think you and I are going to solve that here in this conversation today. It's a very complicated one, and I don't have all the answers, but it's certainly something maybe to leave off with, is this ownership of owning everything, owning your successes, owning your success, owning the your past, owning the things that were out of your control that happened to you, but owning what you choose to make out of this. Because the other alternative is, well, this happened to me and therefore I am like this and I have no ability or no ownership to do anything about that. That's okay. A lot of places that it's very, no moral judgment here, no more moral judgment. Awful things can happen. People, a lot of people are victims, to violence, to sexual assault, to genocide, to the most awful things in the world. And there's no, and it can destroy people, and it does destroy people. But it doesn't mean that you have to accept this destruction. Some things you have no control of, and it'll shatter you completely. I don't know. I don't know what it would do to me if my parents were murdered. Like if I went through what my grandparents went through, if my brothers and sisters, if I have no idea what it would do to me. Maybe it would shatter me completely, and I'd be a shell of a human being, and I wouldn't be able to function. Maybe, but if I had any agency, I know that what I'd like to, wish that I'd be strong enough to do is to take whatever happened to me and to grow. And my grandmother, she doesn't have an ounce of hate in her for anybody. It'd be perfectly justifiable after everything she's been through if she'd be angry at the world and she'd hate Germans, but nothing's further from the truth. She has nothing but love, and that's to me that's very empowering. And that's what the best that you could hope to do.
Heroes.
We've gone into a lot of very, very heavy things. Wow. But
it was great. Thank you. I loved it. Good to chat to you again.
Yeah. So anybody wants to find Sorelle, you're very hard to miss. Very hard to miss online.
Follow the smile.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
you've got a brilliant YouTube channel. Recently best-selling author. You've got so much to give, and yeah, I'll put everything at the bottom of our talk where it goes, the links to your YouTube, to your website accounts. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're feeling especially generous, leave me a rating and a review. The full episode notes are available on ronengelman.com, where you'll find links to what we discussed today and information on how you can train with me and my team in Israel. Stay safe, stay healthy, please stay well, and I'll see you around.